Scott and Kimberly Han are an American couple who converted to the Catholic Church and who in 1993 published a moving account of their spiritual odyssey in a book entitled Rome, Sweet Home, Our Journey to Catholicism. And before converting, they were both active in the ministry as evangelicals, meaning they both had taken academic degrees in theology and were very committed Christians. By slow degrees, they began to question the foundations of the Protestant creed, and Scott was the first to convert to Catholicism, with Kimberly following suit sometime later. And during that interval, when the husband was a Catholic and the wife was yet to become, they suffered tremendously from their division. In this connection, here are a few sentences borrowed from their book. And Scott says, in inverted commas, close friends became distant. Family members grew silent and turned away. I was made to feel like a leper. Meanwhile, Kimberly and I were sailing through even rougher waters. Days and weeks would pass without us sharing anything spiritual. She was anything but eager to hear from me about the benefits of daily Mass and meditating on the mysteries of the Rosary. As my spiritual life surged forward, my marriage tumbled backwards. What made it especially painful was that we recently shared such a rich time of ministering together. And I found myself wondering, will it ever be the way it was? Will our marriage ever survive this period of trial and agony? Most attempts to deal forthrightly with our differences would end in grief and frustration. Fortunately for these two, Scott's wife eventually converted, and their unity as a couple was even more profound than before. However, we can see from their testimony that for a while, their irrespective religious options divided them sharply. As for their evangelical friends and relatives, most of them broke away from them permanently. And in today's gospel, Jesus is referring to precisely such a contingency with perfect honesty and realism when he sadly predicts what his message and his person will inevitably produce. Among other things, the division between relatives and friends. And he says, "Do you think that I have come to establish peace, but rather division? From now on, a household of 5 will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. And in reflecting upon today's reading and this personal journey of Scott and Kimberly, we find a powerful testament to the transformative nature of faith and its potential to both unite and also to divide. In the gospel passage, Jesus reminds us that in the pursuit of truth and a deep relationship with God can sometimes lead to divisions within our families and friendships. As individuals who grapple with their beliefs and spiritual paths, tensions may arise and bonds may be strained. And Jesus' strong words are not about inciting conflict, but the cost of true discipleship. The critical point for us today is the same as for St. Luke's community members. Following Christ and his teachings requires complete and unwavering commitment. The challenge for us today is, where do we stand? To what do we give priority? To Jesus and thus to truth, or to our safety, comfort, goodwill, relationship, or the support of the people around?